amazing experience. It's incredible to think that you're controlling such a huge piece of equipment just from this cockpit.
Not only was Premier Roger Cook controlling, as he says, such a huge piece of equipment up in the Kimberleys at Fitzroy Crossing, Western Australia last week, Premier Roger Cook dismissed the story that I'm about to bring you as mere malarkey. However, the details of this incident suggest a narrative that goes beyond his Premier and Cabinet Parliamentary Office and WA Federal Labor Senator Glenn Sterle's dismissive rhetoric. This is a News for You story brought to you by Freedom Media WA. Stay tuned for a closer look at what transpired last week, where we would challenge the Premier's characterisation of an incident he was involved in. But before I do, consider this. The rule of law is the bedrock of true democracy, and here in Western Australia, it's no exception. It ensures justice, fairness, and societal order, bolstering public trust in the democratic process and fostering a level playing field for political stability and economic growth, preventing abuses of power and corruption, and this is essential in maintaining your trust in the democratic system. In the face of a widening gap between the voting public, that's you, and the world of politics, we are witnessing more and more an alarming trend of complex jargon and partisan bickering, with new laws being rammed through Parliament with little care for the will of the West Australian people. And a case in point here is the shambolic Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act. But moving on, more concerning, the underreporting by legacy mainstream media on instances where money and special interests overshadow the very people who elected politicians into office. And again, that's you. You, the voting public, deserve transparency and accountability, and politics that puts you, the voter, back in the forefront. But the big question we face is, how do we bridge this gap? And one powerful way, and it is why I emphasise on nearly every stream that Freedom Media WA do, and that is to share this stream. Why? Because legacy mainstream media often overlook stories that are truly in the public interest. You have a choice. Passively accept the insights drip-fed by legacy mainstream media, or take an active role by sharing stories that deserve to be heard, like this one. Your share is a vote for transparency, a call for accountability, and a demand for stories that genuinely impact on you and your community. And it's time to reshape the narrative by sharing what truly matters. Now let's take a look at Premier Roger Cook's PR stunt gone wrong at the expense of the rule of law, where the Premier flew up to Fitzroy Crossing last week to reopen the main bridge over the Fitzroy River, which was destroyed in a 1 in 100 year flood in January earlier this year.
Righto, Premier, welcome to the trucking world. Here you are in Fitzroy Crossing in Centurion Transport's Kenworth 610. Three of the best behind, we'll show you. The Premier's just bringing them into the Shell Roadhouse. Here we go. Sneak into the mirrors, there's three of the best. And these have been up to Kununurra and now bound for Perth. So what do you reckon?
This is an amazing experience. It's incredible to think that you're controlling such a huge such a huge piece of equipment just from this cockpit. Thanks for the experience, Glenn. Well, it's Roger, amazing.
It's great to have a Premier who's a man of the people, and I can't think of anything better than getting our leader in behind the wheel of a road train. Keep on trucking, let's keep it safe, Roger, and Merry Christmas from me.
Merry Christmas.
This incident, labelled as malarkey by Premier Roger Cook, takes a serious turn when examining the facts. The 50-second public relations stunt captured by WA Federal Labor Senator Glenn Sterle, posted on his Facebook, reveals an action-packed scenario that would be without question his highest viewed, most commented and shared post. To operate a 53.5 metre combination road train on a gazetted road in Western Australia, one must possess a heavy rigid truck licence for at least a year and undergo formal training for the multi-combination truck licence. And here's where the narrative from the Premier and his office gets interesting. Premier Roger Cook does not hold a truck licence, be it a light, a medium or heavy rigid licence. And this raises serious concerns with the long-time truck driver Matt, who brought this incident to my attention, because in order to operate such heavy equipment, according to the established rule of law governing the use of 53.5 metre long road trains on designated roads in WA, requires a permit from WA State Government Department Main Roads. And without this necessary licence and permit, the question of legality comes into play, making this story more than mere malarkey as claimed by Premier Roger Cook. At a press conference held later on the day of the incident, Premier Roger Cook said, and I quote, "I was in a car park and drove the truck about 10 metres." And he further went on to say, "I certainly wasn't on a public road. I made sure that that was very much the case," unquote, Premier Roger Cook. Now, add in the equation of the state government department that prefers charges of driving with the wrong class of driver's licence to the local Indigenous community members of Fitzroy Crossing by the truckloads, the WA Police. This story has a spokesperson for Waypol saying they understood the location where Premier Roger Cook drove was not a gazetted road. Quote, "Irrespective of a review of the incident, has found that this was a very controlled environment. WA Police are focused on keeping our community safe, and that means directing our resources to where there is an actual threat to the community." The Waypol spokesperson ended their failure to act in enforcing the rule of law with this, quote, "We won't be pursuing this matter any further." So with all of this, let's have another look at the video, but this time I want you to pay particular attention to the view outside the truck window where hashtag #RoadTrainRoger was sitting. Let's have a look.
Righto, Premier, welcome to the trucking world. Here you are in Fitzroy Crossing in Centurion Transport's Kenworth 610. Three of the best behind, we'll show you. The Premier's just bringing it into the Shell Roadhouse. Here we go. Sneak into the mirrors, there's three of the best. And these have been up to Kununurra and now bound for Perth. So what do you reckon?
This is an amazing experience. It's incredible to think that you're controlling such a huge,
That's the Hawken effect thing, aren't you, right?
such a huge piece of equipment just from this cockpit. Thanks for the experience, Glenn.
Well,
It's
Roger,
amazing.
It's great to have a Premier who's a man of the people, and I can't think of anything better than getting our leader in behind the wheel of a road train. Keep on trucking, let's keep it safe, Roger, and Merry Christmas from me.
Merry Christmas.
10 metres? Right. But even if it's way more than 10 metres, as it clearly was, it really doesn't matter, as someone in high office, the Premier of Western Australia, setting the highest standard for the state, Premier Roger Cook said himself, quote, "I certainly wasn't on a public road. I made sure that it was very much the case," end quote. Well, Matt the truckie not only sent me a picture of Google Maps, as he knows the area well, he also sent an email to 6PR, and I'll tell you more about that shortly. But for now, let's have a look at the map that Matt sent in, where you can see Premier Roger Cook's certainty he wasn't on a gazetted road was about as long as a tail as the 53.5 metre road train that WA Federal Senator Glenn Sterle posted the smoking gun footage of a clear offence having been committed. A Premier who states he's ready to lead, here he is.
Are you looking forward to being Premier?
Well, look, I think I'm ready to lead. The measure of any society is the way it treats its most disadvantaged and defenceless.
So I think Robin Cook will be, is his name Robin? Roger Cook, yeah.
It is a great honour to put myself forward today to be the 31st Premier of Western Australia.
Matt the truckie aimed to address this issue that occurred last week up in WA's north, but his plans for an in-person talk hit a roadblock, pardon the pun, because he's busy pushing three of the best with the right licence up north where Telstra's signal gets quite sketchy. And in the battle for media coverage, Matt faced a lot of frustration, I can tell you, with the legacy outlets like Seven Media, who seemed very keen on shutting down the story. Despite this, he persevered, and even after calling multiple times with no answer, he got the vibe in the end that they were instructed to kill the narrative. Undeterred, Matt took the matters into his own hands and fired off all the details to 6PR in an email, so they couldn't avoid the facts. And to his surprise, as they had already told him, they'd claimed they'd covered it enough the day before during Talkback Radio, only to drop the bombshell on Facebook the next day. And let's have a look at their take on this issue.
Some might argue that trying to prove the truth of something is just being pedantic. But yesterday, after Labor Senator Glenn Stirl posted a promotional backslapping video on social media of Premier Roger Cook behind the wheel of a 3-trailer road train.
Shay, the Premier's just bringing them into the Shell Roadhouse. There we go. Speak into the mirrors. There's 3 of the best.
It prompted the legitimate question: does the Premier have a licence to drive a road train, or any truck for that matter? Now, the answer is no. Before I went on air yesterday, Senator Stirl told me it wasn't a big deal because the Premier wasn't driving on a public road. It was a private piece of land, and that means apparently no licence is required. The Premier was not driving on a gazetted road. He was in a car park. Well, an email to the program prompted me to delve a little deeper. And this is what the email said. Not really sure about this non-gazetted road thing. It's clearly a marked road on all the maps. It is Forest Road in Fitzroy Crossing. The police said the review found, irrespective of whether the road was gazetted, the Premier's truck driving took place in, quote, a very controlled environment, unquote. Very controlled? He's driving a road train while being filmed by a fawning federal politician and actively responding by taking his eyes off the road to look at the camera. Call me pedantic, but the Premier was driving a road train without a licence, and he was on a road that leads into a roadhouse in the middle of Fitzroy Crossing. People have been fined or lost demerit points for much less. Do you think this goes to the Premier's credibility, or am I just being pedantic?
This has been a live stream looking at how the rule of law applies to you, not Premier Roger Cook, a person who is ready to lead. And if that's the standard of leadership by Premier Cook, the court of public opinion will deliver its verdict where it matters most, and that's the elections. As a week in politics feels like an eternity, March 2025 will approach fast, and people tend to have long memories of clear abuses of power. Thank you for watching and commenting. Now please share this stream.
Brought to you by Freedom